What happens when survival mode becomes a lifestyle? Over the past few years, many people have been carrying invisible emotional weight while trying to keep functioning through COVID, global uncertainty, ongoing tensions in the Middle East, workplace pressure, financial stress, and the constant expectation to keep going no matter what. And while people may look fine on the outside, many are silently exhausted on the inside, burned out, emotionally disconnected, anxious, overstimulated, lonely, and stuck in a nervous system survival state. They do not even realize they are living in that state. So how do we begin rebuilding emotional safety in a world that rarely slows down? In today's episode, I sit down with Libby Salord-McLean, resilience and well-being coach, crisis support specialist, and corporate trainer, to explore the hidden impact of prolonged stress, emotional suppression, burnout, nervous system overload, and the growing human need for connection and belonging during uncertain times. This conversation is not only about resilience, it's about healing. It's about what happens to the human mind and body when we keep pushing beyond our emotional limits. And it is about learning how to reconnect with ourselves in a world that constantly pulls us away from our inner stability. If you have ever felt emotionally exhausted while still trying to hold everything together, this conversation is for you. Welcome to Let's Get Real to Heal with Libby Salord. Welcome, Libby.
Thank you so much.
It's an honor to have you here.
Thank you.
First of all, and second, I think the timing. We met and we are still in that uncertain situation where the war has kind of been on hold, but we can all feel the uncertainty when it comes to, economical uncertainty or emotional as well. And being here in Dubai, we were supported to the max, I would say.
Yeah,
but having read your profile after we met spontaneously and realizing that you are a specialist in crisis support when it comes to well-being, and coming from a background of rehabilitation counseling. So that really falls in place. So tell me more, how have you felt lately when it comes to your clients, to the corporate training you've been doing, as in before the war in the Middle East started and the current situation?
And now, yeah. I mean, I think the distress and the uncertainty that we've seen in the region, it's something that has impacted everyone universally, but also like incredibly individually as well. And what I have found in my clients is that those women, because I particularly work with women in my one-on-ones, those women who make it an effort regularly, daily or weekly, to prioritize their health and well-being, they have been able to manage during this time of uncertainty with a little bit more ease and a little bit more grace. Not that it's been an easy time at all, but because their cup, their nervous system hasn't just been in this prolonged state of dysregulation and fight flight, they have regular healthy habits and self-care and well-being tools that gives them the opportunity to break away from that. So they've been able to bounce back, they've been able to maintain their resilience, and they've been able to maintain daily rituals and habits despite the uncertainty. But what I've seen with clients who don't really have much self-care, who don't make it a habit to prioritize their health and their well-being, this time now has been far more challenging for them because already they were dysregulated. Already they came from a place of lack. So throw in a crisis where no one really knows what is going on and when it's going to end. So it's this prolonged state of uncertainty, this prolonged state of dysregulation. So it's been far more challenging for those clients.
You just stated the first tool I think that we can highlight, which is keeping habits, healthy habits, even during moments of uncertainty and crisis. So tell us more of how would you, as an executive coach and resilience coach, how would you advise people to create their habits in moments of crisis and uncertainty?
what I always like to say to people is, like, stabilization, success, resilience, it looks different for everybody, right? So stay in your lane. Do what feels good for you, not what looks good for someone else, because it might not be the right thing for you. And when it comes to resilience, I like the definition of advancing despite adversity, because our human experience is always going to be pain and suffering.
Yes.
So we need to figure out how we can keep on moving forward. And I teach clients the foundations of resilience first aid in my sessions, and it has 6 pillars. So maybe I can introduce these pillars now, because they can support people to form some of these daily habits. Yeah. So the first pillar is vision. All right. So even though we may be in a time of uncertainty, or there is crisis, whether that be on a global economic scale or whether it's a personal crisis that you're encountering, we have to have a vision. We have to have a dream. We have to have a goal. We have to have something that we are working toward, even though right now there is some setback. Okay. And during uncertainty, maybe it's a little bit hard for you to look 6 months, 12 months, 5 years ahead, okay? Because there's just so much going on in the current world right now. So to have a vision or a goal or a manifestation or a dream, whatever you want to call it, even maybe for that week or that fortnight or that month, it's going to give you the opportunity to keep moving forward, to stay in alignment, to keep walking in your path, to stay in your lane.
Especially because people experience that feeling of time slowing down.
Yeah.
And there is a time distortion that happens.
Yes.
Because when we look back, we're like, how did the month pass during
Where
the
is
war?
this time gone?
So I think it is very important for people, as you just mentioned, to have a goal and a vision and clarity of where they are on the timeline.
Absolutely. And having your vision, it keeps you motivated. It keeps you empowered. It keeps you feeling like you're in alignment and walking towards something that's important. If you don't have a vision or a goal or a wish or a manifestation, you are quite literally walking away from something that is meant for you. You're walking away from a life that is meant for you. And you are walking probably outside of your values, you know, your compass, those things that are most important to you.
And many people find in crisis, that's what I've learned as well with experience, find in crisis opportunities.
Yes.
They are on high alert, seeking opportunities to create new visions, new goals, and you know, come up with new ideas.
Yes. Absolutely. So that's the first pillar of resilience, first aid, vision. Okay. And then we have composure. I mean, this is they're all very important, but this is one I feel very passionate about because I weave a lot of my nervous system work into this. So composure is about how do you stay calm when you are overwhelmed, dysregulated, or anxious, irritated, frustrated, whatever it may be. How do you stay calm? How do you compose yourself? How can you tell your body and your nervous system that right now, okay, it's not ideal, but right now there's no physical threat. You are safe. You are going to be okay, right? So for some people, it might be breath work. For others who work with me, it might be tapping, emotional freedom technique, where we sort of tap on our body to remind our body that we can get out of that fight, flight. For others, it might be something somatic, like some gentle movement or yoga or meditation, journaling, exercise, connection, right? Prayer for a lot of people as well.
Yeah, it is a personal experience as well. Some people, music would be an outlet, dance would be an outlet, but as you say, it's finding a way to have that composure.
Yeah, and don't just keep on going. Yes. I think there's an outdated definition of resilience, which is like you just got to keep going even though it's really hard. Yeah. That just adds so much pressure onto someone because it's not actually the reality of what resilience is, okay? It's advancing despite adversity. So when we look at composure, how can we implement into our daily habits moments of mindfulness, which can include composure to get your body into that beautiful rest, digest state?
And I think I would say, I mean, asking you this question, it comes to my mind at this point. We had expectations as in to show up in offices despite everything, etc., which pushed for a sense of normality. So it has its advantages. But at the same time, being expected to perform like normal, etc., is a high demand, I think, as for human beings who are functioning in uncertain moments. So what advice have you given for people who had to function under high pressure and were expected to perform as if nothing happened?
So this sort of like weaves into or leads into the conversation around psychological safety. Right? And I teach this in workplaces. So if a workplace is not psychologically safe, then your team and your employees and your staff are not going to feel confident enough to reach out and tell you, I'm actually not doing okay and I need a little bit more support, or I need a little bit of flexibility right now because I'm not actually coping. Or maybe this type of work for me right now is a little bit outside of my capacity or my scope, or I'm already overwhelmed and burnt out. Like, now there's more that you're expecting of me. If there's no culture in organizations around psychological safety, I was
thinking, then it has to be part of the organizational culture. And I think it is high time to kind of include that aspect of well-being and uncertainty and the culture that we want to promote in organizations. Because obviously after COVID, that was already 2 to 3 years of stress. Now we're faced with whatever has been happening on a war level. And then we hear of another virus coming in. And it's like, it feels like it's going to become part of the organizational cultures, as in a way to give guidelines to employees of how to deal with these situations.
And it has to start like with the DNA of the organization. It has to start from the top. And then people have to see that the heads of teams and managers and VPs, you know, they have to see how they are working and how they are providing this environment where it is okay, right? People feel very comfortable calling sick if they've got a cold or a flu or if there's a physical injury. But people nowadays are still very far from comfortable admitting that they're not at work today because of stress or anxiety or overwhelm or personal crisis or issues within family or financial worry. But these things play such a significant toll on your overall health and well-being. And it's going to impact your resilience as well. So you're actually then going to not be able to continue on. And there's going to be issues within your workplace. Problems with concentration, productivity, focus, issues with like your colleagues and your relationships at work. Maybe you'll make more mistakes because your brain has, like, you only have so much capacity. And if you're in this prolonged state of dysregulation, maybe you can adapt outside and maybe you can look okay, right? To the other person, but internally you are struggling.
So it's about the challenges. And I think so far you brought 3 key words to this conversation: keeping habits, second, composure, and third, you spoke about psychological safety. So what else would you put on that list?
So I'm going to go now into the third domain of resilience first aid. And it's such an important part as well for our daily habits, and that is collaboration. Okay. So who do you get support from? Who are your VIPs? Who can you go to at any time of day or night and say, hey, I'm not okay, or I'm struggling? Who can you be vulnerable with? Vulnerability fuels vulnerability, which fuels empathy and connection. And we need more of this.
Showing up for yourself,
Showing up for yourself through your contacts and through your people.
So what's the limit then between, high functioning burnout and self-abandonment? Because I would say that we've normalized that feeling of being burnout. And many people think that burnout is efficiency, is being, more on top of your task list. But what's that fine line between the burnout being looked at as functional and the self-abandonment?
So I think burnout has become like a little bit of a buzzword over the past few years, and this, particularly in, I think within some cultures and some areas around the world, like this always on culture, these expectations that you are connected to your device, your phone, your email. It doesn't matter even if you're on your holiday with your family. I'm expecting you to answer and be accountable for that.
Agree, which is insane.
Which is not right.
It's beyond our natural capacities of functioning.
Yeah. And if you are going to be in this state of hyperarousal, high anxiety, overwhelm, constant pressure, how that can manifest, as I said before, your body can only handle so much.
Yes.
How that can manifest is that probably you're going to end up with some sort of mental health challenge, maybe a diagnosable mental health condition like depression or anxiety, something like this. It's going to lead to issues within your relationship because you're not going to have any capacity to be able to enjoy your children or to enjoy your partner, or you're not going to feel motivated or have energy to go out and socialize and have that collaboration and connection with your friends and your family. You're then going to become lonely, a little bit isolated. Maybe you'll get sick, right? Because we hold on to stress, and maybe for you, it can manifest in increasing fatigue or exhaustion, physical exhaustion or cognitive exhaustion. For others, it's illness.
Yeah, we need to highlight this. I mean, being a health coach myself, I would say that people misunderstand or have normalized certain symptoms that would lead to a level of mental health symptoms, as in recurrent indigestion, acidity, certain, muscle tensions in certain part of the body. This is to protect the nerve. The muscle tenses to protect the nerve. So ultimately, it's like we're not aware, we're normalizing, we keep going. And as you said, ultimately, that leads to emotional breakdowns and at the same time, illnesses. I mean, if we want to call it dis-ease.
That's exactly right. And our body is always, talking to us. And sometimes it's just whispering. Yeah. And it might be a whisper like, hey, you need to slow down, you need to stop, you need to pause, you need to rest. Or it might
rest.
Be, hey, like
That's
this doesn't.
Rest,
we would definitely get to rest. Absolutely.
I remember Dr. Carol in the 9th episode, rest as repair was something that was a hit even on social media, that specific reel, because people need that normalization for rest, because now rest comes with guilt.
Yes.
And it is true.
Rest is laziness. Rest, one of the things that I say to clients all the time is rest is one of the most productive things that you can do. I had a client this week and she is completely dysregulated because she's holding on to the weight of her world, 2 of her friends' worlds, and her mother and little baby brother's world. And there is this limiting belief that she's holding on to, that she's not enough and she can't be there for all of these people in the way that her brain is telling her she needs to be there. And she's absolutely exhausted. She's completely burnt out and overwhelmed. And when we had our session, it was almost like I just gave her this permission slip just to stop and to pause and to start to reframe some of these limits that she's placing on herself, right? And some of these limits were like, you are the best daughter and friend and sister that you can be right now in this moment with the information that you have and the resources that you own. Okay, you're doing really more than enough.
Exactly.
And then that day, after our session, she rested. I think she told me she was in bed for 7 hours.
That's amazing,
her body,
but again, the normalization of things, like I do wonder how we feel much better when someone shows up in our life and says, you need to rest. You look tired. You need to rest. And that permission to rest gives us that space of like, probably I need to rest. We have built so many guilt around it that we need somebody to come in and tell us to, take a break and rest. I don't know how we can kind of like, I would say, promote that culture of having the right to rest. Like in lots of cultures, they have the nap during the day that is essential.
Siesta.
And I would say, as a person who had suffered anxiety in the past, the nap itself used to give me high kind of like fast heartbeat and feelings of discomfort because my body was not used to it. It would take me lots of time to be able to sink in. So I would say promoting that culture, whether it is in organizations or on an individual level, I think is an important thing. I remember a colleague who told me, like, when he joined some work, I don't remember which company exactly, at some time around 2-3, he would see all of them, like just putting their hand on their desk and just resting. And he could not understand till he figured out that in the culture of the organization, they have the rest too. Now, what do you think about that?
I'm married to a Spaniard, so they have this. And when I lived in Spain,
I asked the right person.
We had siesta. I was like, at first I was like, oh, this is a bit weird, but I was very quick to adapt to it. But I mean, in Spain, they have one of the longest life expectancies.
And amazing. That's good information.
Yeah, because the culture is that they take time in the afternoon, 2 hours. They're not asleep for 2 hours, but rest doesn't mean you have to put your pajamas on and tuck yourself into bed. Rest
You're
can
right.
just
Even
be
in
laying
Europe, they
down.
close the shops at some point during the days. You're right.
Yeah, they do, and they come home and they meet as a family for lunch. So there's connection in that moment as well. But yeah, it's this permission to slow down. It's permission. Again, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. Like, just stay in your lane. Be mindful of what your inner voice, your inner critic is saying to you, because it is not lazy. Your body is whispering. Maybe it's shouting at you. Maybe it is saying, Libby, this neck pain, it's not because you went to the gym and you did some weights. No, you are carrying the weight of your world. This is emotional. This is not something that you've done at the gym. This is emotional. So listen, what is it that you've been carrying? Yeah. What are the pressures that you're putting on yourself? What does your day look like? What are the burdens? What's the mental load? And are you getting the help? True. Are you seeking support? What are you trying to do to lighten this? Or are you not doing anything at all?
So here comes again your pillar, your third or fourth pillar, which is collaboration, right?
Exactly.
Yes.
And I guess that can then lead into the next pillar, which is health. Wellbeing can't survive without our health. And many of us resilience can't survive without our well-being, right? And many of us take our health for granted. It's only when we become ill or sick, or someone in our family or a friend becomes unwell or sadly passes away, only then do we get this like shock realization, like, oh goodness, like I actually need to start taking care of myself here. So health encompasses movement, exercise. We all know that we should be moving our bodies every single day in whichever way feels good for you. So that's just a reminder that exercise is not only important for your physical well-being, but for mental, emotional, and spiritual as well. Under health as well, we have sleep and we have rest. So we've already covered that. Exactly. And then we have nutrition. So what are you putting into your body? What does your diet look like? And it doesn't matter if you're vegetarian or pescatarian or you eat everything. Your diet needs to be well-rounded and full and nutritious and all the colors of the rainbow. And you have to be eating enough to give yourself the calories and the energy to then be able to have the cognitive function, the capacity to manage family, and also the energy physically to be able to do some movement and exercise.
So it's a package.
Yeah.
I mean, we need to address each part of that package to be able to get the best results
for our overall
out
health.
of that investment, I guess. So have you ever suffered from burnout yourself? I mean, you have 2 lovely kids, God bless them. And I think being a mom and working, and I've seen that you've been working in the field of coaching and training, whether it is in the Emirates Airlines in Dubai at some point or in Spain or London. So looking at your experience as a woman, because I see that you support women initiatives, etc. So as a woman, have you suffered from burnout?
I haven't suffered from burnout, and I think it's because I've always had incredible boundaries when it comes to my own health and well-being. And I started working at a very straight out of university. My first job after studying counseling was working in neurological rehabilitation. So I was supporting people who had traumatic brain injuries and spinal cord injuries, helping them get back into either vocational roles or study or avocational. So that's a really serious job for a 17, 18-year-old.
Agreed.
So I had to learn from the very start of my working career that I can't be taking this stuff home, that I need to have boundaries, that I need to look at my self-care, that I need to have avenues or outlets to be able to either discuss some things that were really sad for me at work that day, so that I wasn't coming home and burdening my friends or my family, my flatmate with that. So from a very young age, I've learned the importance of self-care and movement and diet and sleep and exercise. So thank God I haven't ever had burnout. But of course, I'm a human. I've had pain and suffering. I've had loss. I've had difficult moments. So I'm a mother of 2 young children, as you said. So I have incredible mental load. I have a lot of overwhelming moments.
Yeah.
But I'll reiterate that they are moments, because I don't let them continue on so that they become more than they need to be. I give myself permission to, as we've already mentioned, some of these resilience pillars, to lean on my support networks, to do a bit of self-care, to do some nervous system regulation, to eat, to sleep, to connect, to have joy, right? So I've had a very, I feel very lucky that I've always worked in this industry and I've learnt these things.
You've seen people suffering. Fortunately, fortunately and unfortunately, unfortunate to see people suffering. But at the same time, we always go through these experiences when we see others suffering by learning how to live our life. So I think your life testimonial that you just given right now is a good opportunity, in fact, to tell women who are going through a lot that, suppressing their emotions and their needs will affect their health.
Absolutely.
And I think the culture, specifically many cultures, I would say, would just portray the expression of anger, frustration, need for affection, etc., as is linked to being out of the model that they are told to be in. And I think with my clients, I've seen it as well, that there is a middle ground. I mean, it doesn't mean that if we express our anger as women or frustration, it has to be in a way that we would disturb the family dynamics and we would impact our partner, etc. There are healthy ways and healthy ways of placing boundaries and still, feeling that we are at a state of being healthy, heard, understood, etc. And I think what I've also observed as a hypnotherapist, how much kids are affected when they see their parents sacrificing. They grow up and come back feeling so much guilt because their parents sacrificed their life for them. So I would say, what you just said makes sense for every woman to understand that by choosing herself in a very healthy middle ground way, she is promoting a healthy environment for her children to grow up understanding.
Well, it's psychological safety at home.
Exactly.
Right, psychological safety just doesn't stay in the corporate world. Psychological safety is in the home environment. And how are you showing up to ensure that your house is psychologically safe? Do your children feel comfortable coming to you if they are struggling? Does your husband feel safe to speak up if he's having a hard time? Do you yourself, as the wife, as the mother, do you find confident in speaking your truth within the home environment? Can you model what it looks like to take care of yourself so that your children see that? And they see that mummy does some meditation, or mummy writes in her book when she's feeling sad, or mummy makes sure that she goes to the gym every day, or she goes for a walk. Like, you are your children's mirror. What they see you doing is what they will inherently believe is, okay, this is a healthy way to live my life.
I do agree with that, fully agree with it. Even yesterday, I had a client who has massive jaw pain, and because I work on physical symptoms, and when we were digging that is there any anger deep down, and she said, I'm not an angry person, I don't shout, and this is how we have linked anger into shouting and into, while anger could be very healthy as well, it's a way of expression.
An important emotion,
So then she explained me, while just talking about her mom and describing her mom's personality, that she has taught her that being a woman means being patient. And by patient, she meant that you need to take everything and just be able to sit at the bottom of the chaos. That's what she was taught. But ultimately, all that anger was stored in her body. And this is where, and for her, expressing means being rude, impolite, means being not loved by her husband. And initially, this is where I again keep saying, like, expression of emotions doesn't have to be a burst of, because we didn't learn that it could be in the middle. And I would say, what advice would you give women precisely when we're speaking about this? Because we are also starting something together to support, to empower women, especially moms, and we will announce it in a later reel. But at the same time, what would be your advice? First, number one advice when it comes to emotional suppression?
Nothing changes if nothing changes.
I love that.
I love this.
That's
Because it's so true. It's so simple, but it's so
simple.
true.
I agree.
Nothing changes if nothing changes. So change. Okay? Holding on to your emotions is not doing you or your family any justice.
Beautiful.
Because when your kid tips over their cereal, okay, that's not a big deal. But if you have held on to everything from that day, that week, that month, that year, your entire life, this straight away triggers you into fight flight. There is a physical threat, as your nervous system would describe. Milk tipping over on the table, of course, there's no physical danger, but your nervous system is in fight flight. It's in hyperarousal. Okay, it doesn't know the difference. So your reaction is going to be huge because you don't have any capacity, because you're not safe internally. Okay,
That's true.
so if you're going to suppress your emotions, it's going to be incredibly difficult for you to actually know what you're feeling when you're feeling it. We have to learn to label our emotions to then know what we can do to support ourselves. So if we know that we are feeling irritated, okay, irritation and overwhelm, they're very different things. They need different tools or techniques.
True.
But if you don't have the emotional literacy to describe or to identify or have insight into what exact emotion you're feeling and then what you need to do with it, it's going to be really hard for you to work through those moments. So if it is, okay, right now I'm feeling, like, because I work with the nervous system and energy. So I tell clients, okay, close down your eyes and tune into your body. So what is it that you're feeling right now? Like listen to your body. It will tell you. And so the woman will say, I had a client 2 days ago. She had all of this pressure and all of this energy showing up here in her chest. And I wasn't surprised because she's going through a huge amount of relationship turmoil. Okay. And this here is like she's suffocated. Okay. She's suffocated. She feels pressure and that it's connected to the heart, right? So there's so much emotional pain that's attached to that as well. But she didn't have the language prior to our session to identify what that actually means and what that looks like. And now, what can she do with that? Okay, so we discussed some breath work. She was going to do a little bit of journaling and then, of course, some tapping as well.
I will take the opportunity. You're speaking about tapping, and we had this conversation before we started rolling, and we said that we want to introduce more, people and the audience to what EFT or tapping is, and it can be done in a basic way. It can be done whether we are at work or at home or anywhere.
Yeah.
And maybe you can show us a sample of how it could work and how would you train your clients to use it?
Yeah. So EFT is emotional freedom technique, also known as tapping, and it's a somatic practice or modality, complementary modality, where we look at the nervous system and our subconscious. Okay. It uses principles of Chinese medicine and modern day psychology. So we have different meridian points in our body, acupressure points that are linked to different parts, organs of our body, and these different meridian points also describe or lean to different emotional states. Okay, so as we are tapping, we are tuning into the energy that we can feel in our body, because emotions are energy in motion.
That's
so if you think about that, energy, very, very simple. So we are all walking, I'm sorry to say, but we are all walking through our life now with our childhood traumas. And you and I both know that, but maybe a lot of the audience don't, right? So we form our belief system up until age 7, right? True. And unless you've had the type of work to support you to work through some of those limiting beliefs, those constraints, those limits that we put on ourselves, we all still have these traumas stored in our body.
We're chained by it. And that's so true.
And it will show up. It will show up with a racing heart. It will show up with digestion troubles, as you mentioned before. It will show up with like this overwhelming sense of pressure. It can show up for people here in their throat or jaw, as you mentioned with your client.
Or just a depression as well.
Absolutely, right? Absolutely. So when we are tapping, we are tuning into the energy of overwhelm, anxiety, fear, not enoughness, unlovable, right? We're tuning into that. We're seeing where that energy sits in our body, and we tap and we use intentional language to help our nervous system go from fight, flight into rest, digest, which is activating the parasympathetic nervous system. So when we are tapping and when we are using intentional language, the message goes to our brain to shut off that threat system, that threat response, so our body can finally come back to the present, to here and now. Okay? So what I would say is, if you are someone who has a lot of trauma or has been through a great deal of distress and maybe complicated mental health diagnoses, I would say that it's preferred that you work with an EFT practitioner or an energy coach to support you one-on-one, okay? Because it's a lot of very deep nervous system stuff that we have to do. But for someone who experiences overwhelm or anxiety or fear or confidence issues, and they're just looking for a tool to add to their toolkit, tapping is a perfect thing that you can do. So one point that I will show you today is here. It's the collarbone. Okay. And it's just gentle tapping, whichever side feels right for you. Okay. I like this point because it's linked to fear, to safety, to emotional distress. Okay. And also it's quite nice to have your hand over your heart, right?
It is. It's the heart center.
Yes. So you're just tapping. And as you said, you can do this on the train, when you're driving, at your desk, like it's not that obvious, right? But you're tapping and you have two choices. One choice is you just tap. You don't say anything at all, because this rhythm is enough to send that regulation to your nervous system and to
As
support.
if you're telling your nervous system, slow down,
you can slow
find
down.
a rhythm, find
We're
a
safe.
pattern. We're safe.
We're safe, right? So if you don't have the language in that moment, maybe you're really, really overwhelmed, even just tapping is going to be enough to support you to feel regulated. If you want to go a step further, what you would do is you would tap and you'd bring to the moment the emotion, the experience that you're feeling. So I'm so anxious right now. I'm so overwhelmed. Breathe, release. I've got all this anxiety in my body. I can feel it here in my tummy. I can feel it here in my chest. All of this anxiety, all of this overwhelm.
Again, I would say the most important is we're accepting those feelings.
Yeah.
We're not fighting them.
No.
And this is why
we're
saying, I can feel you.
I can feel you. You're here. I know you're there. Okay. And then the next thing is, maybe I don't have to hold on to all of this. Maybe it's okay that I can put some of this down. Or maybe it's okay that I can ask for help or get the support that I need. Maybe it's okay that I can say no, or I can set a boundary. Maybe I don't have to have it all figured out. Maybe I don't need to know 10 steps ahead. Maybe I just know now, and the next thing I can do, and maybe that's okay.
Even the energy in the studio has changed.
Right.
Just by starting to use the tool as in, accepting what we're feeling and shifting it. It's
so
simple,
magic, and
but
it's so
it does
powerful.
work. It is simple, but it is magical at the same time. Like, people have to try it.
Yeah. And see, I've not stopped tapping, right? So we're tuning into the energy. We're considering what it could look like if we made some modifications. And then the third step is reaffirming statements. So I am lovable. I am enough exactly as I am. I don't need to change. I'm okay. I'm human. I'm beautiful. I'm brave. I'm courageous. These are general statements now, but if I was working with a client in particular about something, we would make it relevant to his or her language.
I don't think this is something we have to keep as an option. I think self-management and emotional management is our responsibility as a human being. We grew up being told that someone will come on a horse and will manage us and give us happiness and do all of these things. While the reality is, it's our responsibility to manage ourselves first, so that we can be in relationships, so that we can raise kids, etc. And it is a learning process. It doesn't mean I knew how to do it initially with my first child or how to kind of manage myself. But the good news is it is skills. It is a skill.
Yeah.
So I would say with that, and to wrap up the episode, because I would have loved to continue speaking for hours. It has been today so smooth. But what would you give as a last message? What would you like to say to the audience or people who watched the whole episode and would want an advice when it comes to feeling stressed, burned out, or who wants to show up for themselves?
Yeah. I would say, like, you don't have to stay like this. You deserve healing, you deserve ease, and you deserve peace. And you deserve to live a life that is abundant and meaningful and full of joy. So if you're feeling really stuck right now, I empathize with you, right? But please, this is your permission slip. Go and get the help and support that you need. And if you don't know where to start, come back to your body and try to tune a little bit more with what he or she is saying to you, because your body has the answers, but we are just not listening.
In fact, it's very beautiful. It's honestly the mission I've been carrying through this campaign of Let's Get Real to Heal, just to bring in more awareness.
Yeah.
That you don't have to be miserable and think that you've been destined to be punished or to be destined for sickness or for fear, for stress, etc. Because stress is also positive as well, but it's more about, taking a stand and ask ourselves with accountability, what can we do to shift our life so that it is worth living?
Yeah.
So with that, I will say thank you, Libby, for being my guest today, and welcome to this
thank you
to this space. And you've brought a lot, and I'm really grateful for that.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Maybe true healing is not about becoming stronger at surviving pressure. Maybe it's about finally feeling safe enough to stop abandoning ourselves in the process. In a world that constantly rewards productivity, performance, and pushing through, many people are silently craving something much deeper: reset, connection, emotional safety, belonging, and the permission to simply be human again. If this conversation resonated with you, take this as your reminder: you were never meant to carry everything alone. And sometimes healing does not begin with having all the answers. It begins with feeling seen, understood, and supported. Thank you, Libby, for this honest and meaningful conversation. And thank you to everyone joining us for another episode of Let's Get Real to Heal. If this episode spoke to you, subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us at Let's Get Real to Heal with a number 2 on Instagram and TikTok. And join our Fellow Lifers Wellbeing community for upcoming talks, healing events, meditations, workshops, and well-being support. To join, you can send join on the WhatsApp number that will be available in the description. And if you would like to reach out to Libby, you will find all the details, and we will tag her in every post that will be upcoming. Thank you so much, because sometimes one conversation can help someone feel less alone and start his journey for healing. Let's get real to heal.